Can you actually delete someone from your brain? Now, this video, I'm actually tapping into a little bit more of an explanation from my last video I did, which was called Deleting Your Ex, which in that one I talked about rewriting the story and the memories with certain people in your life that you maybe, they're still triggering you. And it was it was more of a light and fun video. So today I'm going a little bit more deeper into really how to do this, why you can do this, and maybe why when you can't, and why it works, and really just give you a little bit more detail. My name is Lisa Cerise, and welcome to my channel. I do inspiring content here on YouTube. I use spiritual and metaphysical lens for everything, and I just focus on growth mindset and helping you achieve your desired reality and also just become the best version of you. And so today's video, I'm going to go and speak about really like some step-by-step techniques on, relationships in the past that are keeping us stuck, keeping us in a loop, or we keep replaying the story. And so today I'll be going through basically why, and then how you can take your power back and really move forward in your life. So just knowing that if it's something quite traumatic that you have gone through, you can still use this information, but use it to your discernment, and make sure that you are able to release that trauma somehow. It's really important to be able to release it, to heal it. If we use techniques to suppress it, then it's not really getting to the root cause of it. So this can be a technique, but also there's other ways. Only you know what is the best thing for you. So I'm hoping that you're watching this with an open mind and an open heart. Right, so in today's video, I'm really going to, I've got some notes. So if I look down here, it's just because I'm got some notes. So in the last video, I talked about like deleting your ex and rewriting your story. And I gave a couple of examples, like you can rewrite someone completely out. You can change the way it ended, or you can basically change change some of the things that happened, if that, if they did something. And so with this, I didn't mean like if you're going to write someone out, then like you remove all the lessons, because like everything that we learn, and we're not like erasing the past like they never existed. We're actually, because what happens with our brain, we keep replaying the memory, and how our brain works is like we don't actually like our subconscious doesn't really know the difference from the past to the future to the present. It all blends as one. And so when we're replaying a memory constantly, we're our subconscious thinks we're in it now. So then we're like, and we're creating from a state of that being. So essentially, if by changing, and I'll get into this later, by kind of working with that memory and altering it, then we can actually alter the way our internal state is right now. And so with our brain, we go on these loops and we replay these memories. And when we keep doing this, then our internal state is in that same memory, in that same feeling, in the same process, because we essentially are feeling like it's still happening, or whatever came from it. So we're really wanting to go back and, like, keep all the lessons that we learned, because that's the, like, has helped us become who we are today. But we're wanting to, like, rewrite any, like, if there was abandonment, if there's like cheating, or like, something really bad happened, you, rather than replaying that memory constantly, that can have still have happened, but you're actually wanting to, like, change it in your head, so because you don't need to keep replaying that. It's actually not helping you, it's not helping your growth, it's not helping forward movement. And I'll get into, like, a bit of more of a metaphysical lens later. But the lessons that we learn along the way are important for our growth. And, like, also, we can understand, we can also have this, uh, like our amygdala, part of our brain, which is like fight or flight, and it can tell when there is danger, and but the problem is it's a little bit too activated all the time. We're not really in a world where we are having to be running from tigers anymore, which is what it was really helpful. But we it's good to assess if there is danger or fear. But if we've had, like, some trauma from a past relationship or whatever, then we can constantly carrying around that, like, heightened state, which is your internal frequency, right? Which is what we're wanting to be working on. And the more we can work on that internal frequency, which I'll get into soon, then we can actually create from a different state. So any trauma that you have experienced with a past relationship, you do want to be dealing with that in whatever, if you're seeing someone, or if you have seen someone. It's really good if you've, like, sort of done the work and you're like, I just, like, I feel like I should have moved on by now, but I'm not. It's because it's in your subconscious, comes back to that wound of abandonment or rejection, or whatever it was that created that emotional experience at the time. And so when I talked about rewriting the story, it's really going into that feeling that you felt, and whatever that was at the time. And so when you go back to that feeling of the relationship, if someone left you, and, like, maybe they were the love of your life, and then they just left you, you didn't know why, or they cheated on you with someone else and left you, you'll probably have, like, a rejection or abandonment wound. But that might have also not been the first time that had happened. So you can go into this is where you can go into a bit of the, like, figure out what it is, and really, get into a meditative state, and really figure out what actually happened in the memory, and pinpoint that feeling. And this is when we can work with the feeling. And with trauma and stuff, like, it's totally okay to let all of that emotion out. So I really suggest doing this in a time where when you can and is best for you, and to really be with yourself for a while, and, like, process all those emotions, like, let it out. If you are seeing someone, like a counselor or something, to, allow these emotions to come out. Or, if you haven't really been able to see one, then what is best for you to do. I'm not here to give you, like, trauma advice so much. This is more if you're wanting to really move past this. This is where this can be really helpful, but really releasing it and letting it out. Once we've seen it, we've acknowledged it, we've pinpointed what all the emotions are, where they come from, and even if they were from a further memory, we can even work with those as well. we've pinpointed what the emotion is, what it brings up in us, and what that feeling is, then we can establish that, and we can work on that, and you can actually understand, and it's not the person or the thing anymore, it's actually this emotion that they've triggered by this action or whatever has happened. It doesn't really matter. Like, the more we go into the story, the more we replay the story, and that puts us into an emotional state, which is exactly what you felt right at that moment. So this is why this video is for you to get out of that and actually change it. But we need to process it first, and we need to like allow it to like almost take over us in the most safest way that you can possible. If you feel like you need to go and release it somehow, like I've actually been doing a bit of boxing at the gym, like there's just these bags and I just go and have a massive punch on a boxing bag. Like, because I do cry at times, but I'm sort of like someone who like the tears just don't come unless they do, and I don't always know if they're going to come or not. So that that might be you as well. You might sometimes, or you might be someone who there's a lot of tears, and so allow them to like come over and take over and release them, and then you're like, okay, now I'm at the step where I'm wanting to really work on the next step. And so I'll give you the technique that I would do. And then I'll sort of talk about, actually, I'll talk a little bit about the, I'm just going to move that. Oh, no, I'm not actually, sorry. I'll talk about the, like, a bit of a metaphysical lens of why this is really good for you to understand once you've released everything, and then we can actually start creating from a place of empowerment. So essentially, you know, in a metaphysical lens, reality is a creation of our internal state. So whatever our internal frequency is the set state to the reality that we are seeing. So if we're seeing life in like a, poor me, this always happens to me, or like, rah, rah, I can't get a break, bad things are always happening, rah, rah. This is the language we're using, this is the frequency we're at, and this is essentially the reality that is being presented and created around us. Because like, time is like an illusion in our subconscious. It's just like everything we're feeling and experiencing, and our memories and all our thoughts and mental loops and everything that is said in our brain and externally is basically feeling and expressing all at the same time. So this is why it's really important to be like really conscious of what you're thinking, really conscious of what you're speaking, really conscious of the surroundings that you're around, like the people. And look, if there are people around you that are like quite negative and speaking a certain way, this is why it's so important for you to build your frequency so high and so like vibrant that even those people cannot mess with you. They cannot alter your frequency. When your frequency is such at a high internal level, no one around you can mess with your frequency, and essentially because you're creating your own reality. So then those people will just drop off. Things will change, everything will change, but this is really down to you and changing your frequency, which is an internal state, which comes from the way we speak to ourselves, the way we, the stuff that we listen to, the information that we fill in our minds, how open and flexible we are to new information. If we're very rigid and like, I only want to listen to this, or I'll only like take on this advice, or this is the truth, this is facts, then like that rigidity is actually an internal state. So then you actually then essentially that is what is expressed around you. And so you will see you having a rigid internal state, you will have rigid people around you, or you will be very rigid with your views and what you're able to understand and consciously process. And so this is like why our internal state is basically the beacon of everything from within, going within. And so setting this frequency really high with like I said, what you consume, what you speak, and what you learn, and the people, like the people around you, that's basically from your frequency. So if you're not, if the people around you, you're like, oh, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be around these people, then that needs to come from within. We need to speak into an existence of what you want to see, what you want to create, who you want to be. Like, I'm confident, I'm empowered, I have amazing people around me, I'm like I'm seen, and like, I'm really, I love what I do, whatever the job you do, whatever, like I have the best friends, I have the best whatever, you're speaking this into existence. And what it is you're setting your frequency up, because when you are setting that frequency up, then reality essentially has to follow. And a lot of people get caught up in like the time frame of like, oh, but I'm saying all this, but I'm still experiencing that. It's because you're actually looking for an external validation for your internal state. But your internal state needs to be so strong and so like that's who you are, that the external has to catch up. That's from maintaining that frequency, which is maintaining that state. We can speak into I this, or whatever. But if you're not internally feeling it, then it's just another like technique, which techniques can be really useful. They've helped me so much, and I still use them because that's getting that really strong internal state, and being in a state of conviction of really like, yes, this is who I am. For me, it took a little while, but I'm there now. Well, anyway, so but yeah, so really maintaining that frequency, and getting into this is where you can start creating the reality. And so then with this internal state, you want to be, once you've pinpointed so that was the metaphysical sort of lens, and then then the frequency, I naturally went into that. And so then you're asking like, who was I in the story, that if you felt like rejected, abandoned, or whatever, then you could have felt quite small and like, oh, no one wants me. Like, what are the stories that are like coming up when you're thinking of this person, this situation, or whatever? And then once you're realizing like the sort of the inner dialogue, the story that is going along with the memory, then you can be like, okay, cool, I'm detaching that story or who I am to that memory, because that situation is not a definition of who you are, because who you are is your frequency, is your state of being. So no person, situation, or thing can actually alter that. That comes from your internal state. So once you realize the story that you've associated with the memory of who you are, then you can be like, oh, that's actually not who I am. And then you can start being like, cool, I get it. Like worked through the pain and the trauma. I've worked out the story of who I think I am from this situation, and now we can rewrite it. We can rewrite the story. You can write like all the positives of like, what are the lessons that you learned from this person or the situation or this thing, like all the positives. This is when we're turning everything around now, and we're going to be like, okay, they taught me strength. They taught me, maybe they taught me I needed to find my own inner light or my own inner strength, and I had to find someone to squish me down or do this or whatever. Maybe they taught me like to love, maybe radical self-love. Maybe I needed to learn radical self-love. So I got someone that was, like, essentially it's we didn't have the radical self-love, so then we found someone that mirrored our internal state, and then, we learnt to give the radical self-love to ourselves from that. So once you learn the lessons, and you can actually be really thankful and grateful for this. Now, this takes a good level of self-awareness and a detachment from it, not in like a aloof, like I don't care way, like in a real, like, oh, I can see, I understand now. So I understand if this doesn't quite resonate, that's okay. You can choose to come back, and like sometimes 6 months later, like our level of consciousness changes like all the time. You can read a book once and then read it again, and you're like, oh, I get it now. Oh, like you get more, and like the more and more you read the book, the more your level of consciousness has changed, and so you get different parts of the book. Same with a movie as well. It's like you're like, ah, okay, I get this now. And so, like, I advise you to also come back and listen to this again in a little while, and do it with any other things that you're maybe going through, and see if it really helps shift, and see also what shifts in yourself. Um, so where was I going with that? It'll come to me. Now I wanted to talk about changing the memories from the past. This isn't writing a person out like I mean, you can write them out like you never met them. I've done that with some people because they weren't a huge significant person in my life. But I did learn something, but I actually learned that. That's right. Yeah, I learned that I didn't listen to my own boundaries of not wanting to date them. So because I was actually like, no, I didn't really want to date that person, but I said yes, and then, or whatever happened. And so I actually went back and I rewrote that. I was like, no, I listened to my internal thing that said, no, I don't want to date this person. And so I didn't. Um, and that actually brought back a whole level of empowerment to me. Um, so, and some people might be like, well, that's delusional. Well, you know what? Reality is basically an illusion. So we might as well be a little bit delusional, right? If we want to create the reality of our dreams. And that's basically all the people who have done so much in this world or created their own reality, they've actually been delusional to do it. So I actually don't mind if, you know, I think you should try it and do it with a smile. Like give it a whirl. Be playful with all of this. Like, we don't need to be so serious. The more we can bring like laughter and joy into the world, into everything that we experience as well, like it's more playful. Like when we were kids, we were like laughing all the time, and we've just kind of, they're just like gifts of joy. So bring out your inner child. And so, yeah, when you rewrite your story, you can do what I did. You didn't date them, and like you rewrite the story to work for you because you're like, I didn't even want to date them anyway. And you could rewrite it that, like, say if they cheated on you, and these are just some examples. You will know what works for you. It's like it's really this is all like an inner guidance of like going within and figuring out what works for us. But if they like cheated on you with someone else and left, and then they left this, you had this abandonment wound, you figured out where the wounds come from, and then maybe you figured out where it came from in your childhood as well. You can rewrite that story as well, and maybe like wherever it came from, they gave you radical self-love or told you that you were accepted and loved, or whatever that was. If you had like a really bad, like a narcissist or something, obviously, like, you can, once you've worked out what the lessons and what you taught, maybe it was like they squished you down so you're small, and then you found your like radical self-love. You actually found love in yourself again. That's amazing. So you could actually see them, like all the horrible nasty things that they said to you, you could actually reverse them, and they were actually saying all this nice stuff to you, and they weren't, they changing what they did and what they said, and so then you just went your separate ways, or you don't have to rewrite the ending so much. You're rewriting the parts that really upset you. Doesn't really matter how you ended, because there's relationships that have not always ended, that you've just grown apart. That's what I've done with some of mine as well, that we've just grown apart. We've become different people, and it was just the sort of traumatic, not nice parts that I rewrote. And I actually saw them actually treating me kind and with respect, and they were telling me how much like they loved me, and how much they thought that I was amazing, and like all the opposites to what they did. And then it rewrites that memory, and so then you're feeling that. So with someone cheating on you, it could be that maybe they came back to you and they actually chose you, and they thought you were amazing, the love of their life, and you're like, yay, and but then you decided to go your separate ways, something like that. Unless you're really wanting them back. There's other videos out there from people that you can use to get someone back. That's not really something that I'll be going into here. But these are ways of really, like, whatever the wound was that they triggered, whatever, like, you can just change the whole memory. And this is just so we don't keep looping over it. We don't keep going over it, because we want to move forward. We don't want to like have that burden or that memory holding us back. So really doing this in a way, because you're replenishing what was taken from you. So this is why you're doing it. You're replenishing what was taken from you, and you're setting your frequency to, like, I was never abandoned, I was always loved, like, and you're also giving that to yourself. You're giving that love to yourself. You're giving that acceptance to yourself. You see yourself, and you're not needing the external validation anymore, because anything that is coming from within does not need, you are not needed from without. And so, like, we can give all this stuff to, like, acceptance, love, being seen. We can see ourselves, we can validate ourselves, we can love ourselves, we can accept ourselves. All of this stuff that we externally seek, we can all get within. And when you give that to yourself and set your frequency to, a loving being that is treated like, has really good relationships, where you're treated with respect and love, and you're seen, and all of that, and you're giving that to yourself. Because really, we can only get what we either expect from people, or see, or what we believe people to be. So if we're like going, women are all this or men are all that, then that's what we're going to get. So changing our language, changing how we see others, by changing that internal memory and the wound that's going on, and then we can actually change our internal state, which is our frequency, which then vibrates to the external state to catch up to that frequency. And then reality shows us what we have been modeling and being internally. So that is a little bit more of a, I guess, deeper dive into the last video. Let me know what you think. Like, is this something that you are that you feel like you are really keen to try? Is this stuff that you already kind of know and you've like done a little bit of, but you're willing to give it a go again? Or are you going to come back in 6 months' time and listen to it again and see what else that you get? I highly suggest that. So yeah, anyway, let me know in the comments your thoughts, and yeah, and I'll see you in the next video. Namaste. Have a great day. And if you've got any questions or anything, I would love to answer them in the next video because yeah, that was fun. Anyway, see you later. Bye.
Remember who you are when the screen goes dark, when the noise falls quiet and you're left with your heart. Remember who you are when the crowd moves on, when the masks come off and the world feels wrong. Remember